everybody, Mo here. Today we have a few government policy updates to talk about from the FDA, the IRS, and Colorado, and a couple of things about Curaleaf and New York as well. Welcome to the Wednesday, October 27th edition of Mary Jane Markets. This is a show covering the developing news of the North American cannabis sector every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or thereabouts. I also analyze a few of its operators, Cresco Labs, Curaleaf, Thumb Industries, and Trulieve. The goal here is to do all of the due diligence I normally do as an investor in these companies, and then provide that to you in a concise episode so you can stay updated. First up in government policy updates, I wanted to talk about a flurry of developments I've seen around the Food and Drug Administration that's related to our industry. You may have seen some of this too. So this month, the FDA revealed their cannabis-derived products data acceleration plan, and they started off by saying, cannabis-derived products and other emerging substances present unique challenges to one of the FDA's core responsibilities to protect public health by ensuring that products such as human and veterinary drugs, human and animal foods, dietary supplements, and cosmetics meet required safety and quality standards. We believe that new approaches to detecting safety signals and other insights using diverse data sources and rigorous analytical methods can contribute significantly to FDA's ability to respond to emerging and rapidly evolving product areas like the CDP market. So this kind of summarizes what they're going after and hoping to achieve. That is, they feel that the CBD and emerging cannabinoid market and products they list here have just exploded. And following the 2018 Farm Bill, which legalized hemp, these fall under their purview to regulate. They are one of several government agencies that do so, but their role in that, as they state, is to protect public health. And they have been policing this space for a while now, but they feel that they need to undertake this massive data collection and analysis program. They state here to better understand the public health implications of the product, but also I think to better police the market. At least, they use language that is highly suggestive of that, such as, the data acceleration plan's primary goal is to leverage novel data sources and advanced data analytics to identify current and emerging safety vulnerabilities in the CDP market. They list a few sample projects here. I'll scroll through so you can get an idea of them. So a couple things here. This seems very much like a first step kind of action by a government agency, but like we mentioned, the FDA has been active in this space, not just policing, but they've approved for cannabis drug products for medical purposes as well. Also, this is limited to low THC products. I know I don't talk about CBD enough and really just focus on the recreational and medicinal markets, but that's because I invest in what I know or can understand. If a time comes that I do understand that market better, maybe I'll start talking about it on the show, but at this point I think it would be disingenuous of me to come up here and talk about this stuff without really knowing anything about it. But despite its CBD focus, this program could indicate how the agency would deal with other types of cannabis products in the future. They are an agency that has authority and powers in the US, and when it comes time, they'll definitely have an influence on the industry. So for anyone interested, I'll link this and a couple of other items I found interesting below. Another government policy item has to do with a conference, the 37th Annual Tax Controversy Institute, that took place on the 21st. The keynote was given by IRS Commissioner Charles P. Rettig, but its senior counsel of the IRS, Cassidy Collins, whose remarks about the industry made news. I remember we looked at a blog post together a while ago from a subdivision of the IRS and surmised that the open and collaborative attitude towards the industry in that post was indicative of broader feelings at the agency, and this kind of confirms that. The main quote being circulated, and shout out to Marijuana Moment for covering this. There's been a number of legislative bills that have been introduced, but it is interesting to note that if the law changed so that the businesses could have banks, that would make the IRS's job to collect taxes a lot easier. As part of that collection, we want the money. That's our end goal there. She later went on to say, the IRS will work with these companies because, again, we want to get paid. So this is another instance of a high-level official coming out in support for bringing the cannabis industry into the banking system. I think we've all picked up on that the general sentiment towards the industry is changing, and we as investors probably live in a little bit of an echo chamber when it comes to cannabis policy, or at least the sentiment around it. But I think some people's support weighs more heavily than others, especially when that support is coming from inside the IRS, as the US broadly is looking to collect more taxes to keep funding programs. Like, let's be super clear about that. The US wants to collect taxes from the cannabis industry. And if the people you've put in charge of doing that are coming out and saying, we need to bring it into the banking system, why would you not listen to that? Some more tax news, this time out of Colorado. where regulators need to reassess cannabis taxes in the state to better position Colorado businesses to be competitive if cannabis is legalized federally. I'm quoting that from Colorado's House Bill 21-1301, which passed back in June. This is a cannabis-related bill and includes this as a requirement. It says it requires the state licensing authority created to regulate and control the licensing of the cultivation, manufacture, distribution, sale, and testing of regulated cannabis to convene a working group on or before November 1st, 2021 to examine the existing rules and tax laws that apply to the wholesale cultivation market to explore how the rules and laws could be amended to better position Colorado businesses to be competitive if it's legalized federally. The working group is required to report its findings and recommendations to the Executive Director of the Department of Revenue and the General Assembly on or before June 1st, 2022. So the upcoming meeting deadline must be why it's popping up now. Colorado taxes right now are 15% sales tax, and then there's also a 15% excise tax on the back end. You guys might know that there are a few pieces of cannabis legislation in the churn at the federal level here in the US. For those that may have missed my updates, I came across this really nice summary from the National Cannabis Industry Association that provides the status on those, and I'll link that below for you to check it out. Some of which include a federal tax component. For example, the CAOA ramps up to 25% over a few years, and as the likelihood of something like that passing increases, Colorado wants to stay ahead of the curve. The authority they are referring to there is the Enforcement Division. I checked out their website, but I don't think we're going to get any updates on what those new taxes will look like for a while. So they had one meeting about this on October 18th. In it, they set out a timetable for themselves with 10 meetings before they submit a report. Obviously, if they want to attract cultivation, they'll lower taxes. Just how far that remains to be seen, but I think they're serious about it. Colorado was one of the first states to recreationalize. I think they're very comfortable with the industry. Even this original bill we started our discussion on was about removing impediments for outdoor cultivation. If you're wondering what's a high tax rate, what's a low tax rate, where does 15% put Colorado among its peers, check out episode 29. That's the Mystery Solved episode, but we also talk about the booming Arizona recreational market. And one of the factors we analyzed and compared with other states was taxes. I remember I'll link that below. Another thing I wanted to get on your radar was this press release from last week from the Bloomwell Group about a funding round they closed. The only reason this came across my inbox was because they simultaneously announced new board members, one of them being Curaleaf chairman Boris Jordan. I know we haven't talked about CURA or Boris Jordan specifically in an episode yet. I really hope to get that company-specific episode done before the next earnings call. But Boris Jordan is a billionaire entrepreneur. One of his companies is Measure 8 Venture Partners, a venture capital and hedge fund launched in 2008 to, and I'm quoting here, capitalize on the emergence of the US and global cannabis industry. By the way, Boris Jordan is doing an AMA on Reddit tomorrow. It's not the AMA subreddit, it's this one here. I don't want to say that word on YouTube. Anyway, Measure 8 was the lead investor in that funding round. A very small cap raise at $10 million, but they don't say what percentage of the company that amounts to or what that puts their valuation at. But Bloomwell Group is now a holding company or an investment company with projected revenues of 5 million euros in 2021, 160 employees, with a focus on the European cannabis industry. The CEO describes in the release, our portfolio companies will radically focus on a consumer-centric approach along the entire value chain of medical cannabis, with the exception of cultivation. So could there be a partnership with EMAC Curaleaf International in the future? They do highlight Measure 8 and Boris quite a bit here. I don't want to speculate on this too much. Billionaire businessmen tend to have their tentacles in many things, but this certainly wouldn't be the first time that companies with synergies and close ties at the top came together. I don't know much at all about the European market. The US keeps me busy as it is, but if you are, this might be something to look into deeper. Another quick thing, New York medicinal dispensaries are starting to sell flower. So this was voted on and took effect immediately following the state's CCB's meeting back on October 5th. So in about 2 weeks, these companies have started to make sales. That's a really good turnaround time. Great for those 10 companies with licenses in the state right now. We've looked at enough data together where you've probably picked up on that flower is the most popular product, usually comprising somewhere around 50% of sales. So good to see. One last thing I wanted to circle back to was the Benzinga Capital Conference, which we talked about last week or a couple weeks ago. Go check out the panel videos they posted on their YouTube page. And even if you're not interested in any of these companies, there are a few with good broader market discussion. There's a good one on the ETF Managers Group, another one on M&A, REITs. Keynote features Trulieve CEO Kim Rivers. And these videos have a surprisingly low number of views. So if you have some free time coming up, I definitely recommend checking those out. All right, that is all for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to interact with me, find me on Twitter. My handle is @MJMarkets. If you're liking the content, please like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and most importantly, please share this channel out with any other like-minded investors. Word of mouth is really the only way I have of growing the channel and continuing to do this. So thank you so much for all of your support.